I had a very silly dream. I laugh at it now, and I still have the same dream, by the way. So my dream was that I wanted my name to be on the front page of a newspaper. So in India, the Times of India is the #1 newspaper, and I wanted my face to be on that newspaper. So I wanted to do something big.
In both science and arts actually, and I'm always drawn into jobs that requires originality, like either as an artist or as a researcher or scientist. So I guess that's already set since I was a young girl. However, in the process I realized that I have more talents and abilities in the science part. So that's why since high school I think this is the dream job that I've had at the time. So yeah, it's living my dream in a way.
So when I was a teenager, I wanted to become a lawyer. So that was really my dream and what I wanted to be, and instead I went into an engineering school.
I like my job because it's very dynamic. Things are always changing in technology, in the quant world, in finance in general. The landscape changes year on year. Everything is becoming very technology oriented now. So there's a lot of focus firms are putting and investing into technology. So that makes my job that much more interesting, right? That sort of keeps me going, and that's the best thing about my job.
I think working in schools, the best thing is to work with very young people. You see people with the kids, the students that we have, they're very enthusiastic, very eager to learn, and I think it keeps you young. Dealing with very young people, it keeps you enthusiastic. You need a lot of energy, and I think that's what I enjoy the most about my job.
So I think the main time that I would have found it quite challenging fitting in and maybe not conforming to society's requirements or desires, probably like a lot of teenage girls I'm imagining would have been secondary school, but probably more between grade like 8 and 10 I can really distinctly remember. And I think it's the real only time that I've let it bother me in my life. And it was definitely wanting to pursue things to a high level in academia and in sport, and growing up in an area of Sydney where that perhaps was not perceived as the cultural norm. But definitely like the friend groups around, other positive role models and influences through sport and family helped me to really see and to grow through that. So I think after that stage, I've really not ever listened to those pressures.
I think earlier on in my career, I did feel the stress of fitting in, like I said, very male-dominated industry. But what you do is try to bridge that gap, be more conscious. In the beginning, what I did try to do is be more male-like. There are some male traits, there are some female traits, and I try to emulate and be more one of them. But in more recent years, there's so much stress on diversity. So really, you've got to be yourself. That's the value, and all the companies realize it now that your uniqueness is what brings the value to the team, right? And the different perspectives, all those matter. So you really don't need to change yourself. You just need to be yourself. But I sort of realized it late in my career, I guess.
I think when I was growing up, my dad was in the army, so every 2 years we moved. I had a new set of friends, I was in a different place. So I just kind of learned while I was growing up to be in a new place and fit in. Even though I was not fitting out, everything around me was different. So I never felt out of place anywhere for that matter. So I don't really have a strategy which I can give you. But the day you're comfortable in your own skin, you're your own friend, I think you'll feel fine anywhere.
Definitely. I think the biggest areas in terms of in my educational profession would be when there's visitors to the school. Sometimes it's a bit dependent on experiences of different people that come into the school, and if they see that I'm a design teacher and I'm constructing and I'm using like heavy industrial materials with my students, they may understand that that is what I do, but I've definitely had comments and discussions where they're surprised that I'm doing what I'm doing, and I don't think it's meant to be an offence, but definitely those sort of conversations where they're like, oh, I thought you would be teaching food and nutrition or textiles, and you know what, like I teach those as well because I want to be able to pass on my knowledge in as many things as I can, but yeah, that's definitely, I think, a challenge in our field, is that misconception of what we should be doing.
Yes, it happened a lot. Some people thought that I was the secretary, and some people were surprised. First, they were surprised by my profession. Second, they're surprised that I'm in engineering. Third, they're surprised that I'm in aerospace. But at some points, I get so used to it and I just ignore them. It's more normal to be female, to have professions in science and engineering. I think for us to act as if it is normal. So just ignore them. And that helps, to be honest. Just sometimes if they ask, oh, how come you become aerospace engineer or aerospace scientist, and I was like, why not? So basically that simple questions makes them think that indeed there's nothing that prevents women to have career in this field.
I think as a woman, you get used to the kind of questions like, what does your husband do? Or not maybe having the same credibility. So that might be one thing, so you just learn to get over it. As an entrepreneur in general, when you start especially, people just will put your idea down anyway, telling you that it's not doable. But that's a strength that you need to have, is to believe in your own ideas and to be able to listen to everybody but just make your own opinion. And at the end, there are a lot of people that will never have faith in you, but you always find also the right people to really lift you up.
Things are evolving at an incredible rate. I think workplace is becoming far more female friendly than it ever was, and we owe that a lot to the female pioneers before us, especially the pilots who I still fly with, some of the captains. They really inspire me, and every now and then you do get to see an insight into what it must have been like for them. Some of the places we fly to, the Middle East for example, sometimes the air traffic control won't even talk to you if you're a female, or the engineer will come in and not even acknowledge that you're a commander of the aircraft and instead speak to the male.
So far, no, to be honest, but maybe because I don't really care about what people think.
I think these days, every day, we are pushing boundaries every day. I was just reading the other day about India's Chandrayaan to Mars, and I saw on the news a team of women who were really core to that particular project. I think the project director and the mission director are women in those projects. I think what's really important is for people to be able to see women in these jobs. And I'm really proud that in India we had a prime minister ages back, a woman prime minister, and we have doctors, engineers, pilots. There are so many women pilots nowadays. And we see that all the time. So it's important that these things are seen by people. I think that it should be visible. And I think that's how you grow out of this, women cannot or can't do this. As long as you keep showing people it's possible that a women doing these kind of jobs, I think it's quite easy. I was quite impressed. The other day we had a student who visited us, and she's been out of school for 4 or 5 years now, and she's working in the construction engineering kind of department, and she is a person who wears a hard hat and goes to construction sites in America. I think that is amazing, and we need to make sure that we show our young kids these role models, and that they understand that it's possible to do these kind of things.
When I was doing my engineering degree, I was one of 3 females in a class of over 100, and this is a very similar percentage to female pilots in Cathay. If people are surprised at what I do, then it doesn't offend me. It only encourages me to promote that this can be done, and it's becoming more and more common all the time. Nobody should be put off doing a career because of their gender.
I think if I'm talking from my own experience, so my mother is actually an engineer. So I grew up thinking that it's actually totally normal, and I never thought about it as, something that was surprising. So I guess the more women engineer, technician involved into deep tech there will be, the more normal it will become. I think it's important for everybody to understand that there is not something meant for girls or boys, and I think the aim is really to have everybody try everything, at least just to try it, to know if they like it or not, and then that's when we'll get more diversity.
So the world is really changing and going towards the STEM industries, right, is really booming, and this is the time to really invest yourself in the STEM fields. I think the careers are very lucrative, and it's always challenging, it's always dynamic, so there's nothing like it if you have the aptitude for it.
So I think my advice is that while most of us like to do what we enjoy, what we like, I think it's also good to just challenge and surprise yourself sometimes. That's my favorite. I just love it when I surprise myself. I always think, oh, I can't do this, and when I do it, it's the most exciting feeling, and that encourages me even more, because what you like, and if you do it, it's nice, but it's not challenging you or pushing you to your limits. But if you feel that you can't do something, and if you do it the first time, it's always the first time which is difficult. The moment you do the first time, then you're like, okay, give me another one like this. That's the thing. It's like a math problem, and you can't do the first one, it's tough. And the moment you get it right, you're like, okay, I want to do another one, and then I want to do another one. So please don't stop yourself, just go ahead and try. And you have a long life. You're going to live for like 70, 80 years. So don't worry if you can't get it right the first time. Try it again, and then just keep trying it. And have fun. Don't worry about what people are saying it. You don't have to fit in. That's the best part.
Your job.
To me, it's quite important that if I am in a job, I'm enjoying it. Okay, I have changed jobs because I felt that I've reached somewhere that I was not enjoying what I was doing anymore. So I think that's really important, that that's something that you do for so many hours in a day, and that you really, really need to enjoy it. And that's the best thing. If you're enjoying your job, you will stay focused. Yes, of course, there are challenges, and sometimes you might have a tough day. You go back home and you're tired, and maybe you're not really happy. At those times, or in those periods, it's quite important that you look at what you wanted to do. So you always have objectives, right? And sometimes they're at the back of your mind, but I always sort of break them forth and sort of say, this is what I want to do. These are the main things I'm doing. Am I still happy doing these? And if I am, then these little things that nag at you, that irritate you, I think it's easy to push them aside and focus. So have a set of goals. I mean, they're not pinned on my wall anywhere, but they're always there at the back of my mind. And I think every time you have these challenges, it's important to see the big picture, what you want to do, are you doing it? And then you have to sort of deal with these little things as best as you can.
That I love my job, that I'm living my dream. And I really want my students and other people to experience what I'm experiencing right now. Because this is when I feel like all the struggles or the hard works are really paid off. And when it is paid off, it is really enjoyable, it's really remarkable, and living your dream is the best thing you can give yourself.
My favorite book is Illusions by Richard Bach. This book was given to me by my friend when I was in my 9th standard, and it had this quote called, "You're never given a wish without being given the power to fulfill it." And I think that was quite inspiring, and it's with me all the time. So if ever I feel I can't do this, then I'm like, no, if I'm thinking about it, I'm sure I can do it.
This is not a hard questions because as I mentioned, I really love reading, so I read a lot of books. But if I have to mention two favorite genre, they will be, one is classic, so I really enjoy reading Victor Hugo, Jane Austen, obviously, and Louisa May Alcott. I think you might know The Little Woman is one of remarkable works of her. And the second type is the historical fictions, because somehow I always like to read something that I can learn. So Simon Winchester, James Michener is, you learn about history wrapped up in a very interesting and compelling story. So I think
the book that I read in the summer was Unbroken, about the Second World War, and by Laura Hillenbrand, I think. And I think that was the most recent one that I think I really enjoyed reading. But what I really like to read are books about different places, set in different places and maybe in different times.
That is such a difficult question. There's so many good ones. I think there's different types of favourites, for sure. Some of the ones that you really can't put down, like the Harry Potter sort of trilogies, and Lord of the Ring trilogies. The page turners, I guess, are always big favourites. But then I really like those books that kind of keep you engaged a little longer, and maybe they're a bit deeper. Murakami, a Japanese author, I think the one about Norwegian Wood, I think it's called, basically looking a lot at character development and things like that.
So one of my favorite book is The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Horowitz, which is about tech entrepreneurs and the hard work it takes to actually not only build a company but really develop it and grow a team. So this one is actually very good. And another one that I really like is Run or Die by Kilian Jornet, who is one of the top trail runner in the world, and it's basically sharing all his trail running stories, and I found it very inspiring.
That sits with the book question as well. There's so many, it's really hard to choose. But I think the longest standing songs or bands that have stayed with me were from my youth, actually. A lot of indie music in Australia. So definitely things like Metallica, Nirvana, some of that rock music. So if I was to pick one, I think I would have to say, let's say Red Hot Chili Peppers, Under the Bridge.
I have a few different songs I like, but there's a couple of songs that Wonderwall and Yellow Taxi. These are songs that have been my all-time favorite. It's got a lot of depth and meaning and very relevant even today. If you listen to the lyrics, very relevant to the environment today.
I think it's important because little girls, they get inspired when they look at something which is nice, and most people would want to have an idea. And it's good to share what we've done, what are the hardships, and also I would like to share with little girls that it's not that difficult. I think sometimes people don't do it because they think, oh, it's going to be really tough. So I think that's one thing which I want to tell them. It's not difficult. If you make up your mind, you can do it. So just go for it. And the second thing is, it's also for the parents. Very often, like I'm a parent myself, and if most of the parents would want something which is tried and tested in some career path which is, you don't want their kids to fail, so it's something which is safe. So if parents see more women out there and they are succeeding and they're doing well and they can have a very well balanced life, they can enjoy what they do, then they will also feel encouraged to kind of support their daughters if they want to follow a career in STEM or they want to do engineering or technology. Yeah.
To encourage female students like you to pursue your career in STEM, which is why you're doing the video. We've been celebrating like Sit With Me for the last 2 years, and I sort of organize it. It's basically an organization to that works at increasing awareness of women working in technology. So it means like sit on the chair, take the seat on the table, right? To encourage the industry as such to recognize the contribution that female technologists bring to the industry. And in a way, it goes to bringing it down to the grassroots level, right? From primary school, from secondary school, you ingrain it into students and young minds that there's no difference. Gender doesn't play a difference in the kind of career you want to pursue or kind of majors you want to take up in your college, right? There should be no difference.